Patricia Nolan had spent 37 years working inside hospital walls. She had seen everything. She had watched patients fight their way back from the edge of death, and she had held the hands of others who slipped quietly away. For most of her life, Patricia worked as an ICU nurse. The intensive care unit teaches you things most people never learn. It teaches you how fragile the human body is. It teaches you how small decisions can change the difference between life and death. But perhaps the hardest lesson Patricia learned was that sometimes danger doesn't come from strangers. Sometimes it comes from the people you trust the most. Patricia was 67 years old when her husband Daniel died. Daniel Nolan had been 71. A retired high school history teacher with a quiet voice and a gentle sense of humor. He was the kind of man who remembered birthdays, fixed neighbors' broken fences, and read books about ancient civilizations late into the night. He and Patricia had been married for 45 years. Together, they had raised 2 sons. Mark, the older one, was 42, practical, ambitious, always chasing the next opportunity. Jason, the younger son, was 39, charming, talkative, the type who could convince anyone of anything. From the outside, the Nolan family looked perfectly ordinary, but ordinary families can hide extraordinary secrets. 6 days before Daniel died, Patricia noticed something unusual. Daniel was sitting at the kitchen table, grimacing slightly as he swallowed a pill with a glass of water. "What's that face for?" Patricia asked, half smiling. Daniel shook his head. "New blood pressure medicine the boys brought me," he said. "Tastes awful." Patricia paused. "The boys brought it?" Daniel nodded casually. "Yeah, they said the cardiologist insisted I switch to a new generic brand." Patricia frowned slightly, but she didn't question it too much at the time. Her sons often helped their father pick up prescriptions. Still, something about it stayed in the back of her mind. A small, quiet detail, the kind of detail most people forget. But Patricia Nolan was not most people. 37 years in the ICU had trained her mind to remember the little things, the things others overlook. Over the next few days, Patricia seemed a little more tired than usual. Nothing dramatic, just small things. He bruised easily. One evening, Patricia noticed a dark purple mark on his forearm. "Where'd that come from?" she asked. Daniel shrugged. "Must have bumped into something." Patricia looked at the bruise longer than most people would have. But again, she let it go. At 71, bruises weren't unusual. Then came the night everything changed. It was a Tuesday evening. Patricia was in the living room reading when she heard a loud thud from the hallway. Her nurse instincts activated instantly. She ran toward the sound. Daniel was lying on the floor. His breathing was shallow. His skin looked pale. And there was blood. More blood than Patricia was prepared to see. The ambulance arrived within minutes. At the hospital, doctors worked quickly. CT scans, blood tests, emergency treatment. After nearly an hour, a physician finally walked into the waiting room. Patricia recognized the look on his face. She had seen it hundreds of times during her nursing career. The look doctors wear when they have bad news. "It appears your husband suffered a massive hemorrhagic stroke," the doctor explained gently. Patricia felt the words like a physical blow. Within hours, Daniel Nolan was gone. The grief was overwhelming, but something else followed closely behind it, a feeling Patricia couldn't quite name. A quiet sense that something wasn't right. The next morning, Mark and Jason arrived at Patricia's house. They seemed unusually focused, not on grief, not on memories, but on logistics. "We should arrange cremation right away," Mark said quickly. Jason nodded. "It's what Dad would have wanted." Patricia sat silently in the living room. Everything felt too fast, too rushed, too organized. Within 24 hours of Daniel's death, her sons were already pushing paperwork. Cremation permits, funeral arrangements, legal documents. "Why the hurry?" Patricia finally asked. Mark sighed. "Mom, it's just easier this way." Jason added softly, "It helps with closure." But Patricia's instincts were screaming. In the ICU, when something felt wrong, it usually was. And suddenly, Daniel's words from 6 days earlier echoed in her mind. "The boys brought me some new blood pressure medicine. Tastes awful. New generic brand." The next morning, Patricia made a decision that would change everything. Without telling her sons, she requested an autopsy. The hospital staff understood immediately. Former ICU nurses know the system well. The request was filed quietly. When Mark and Jason learned about it, they were furious. "Mom, why would you do that?" Mark demanded. "It won't bring Dad back." Jason shook his head in disbelief. "This is unnecessary." But Patricia didn't argue. She simply said one sentence. "I need to know the truth." The autopsy results came back 2 weeks later, and what they revealed shocked everyone. Daniel Nolan's blood contained extremely high levels of warfarin. Warfarin is a powerful blood thinner. It's used medically to prevent dangerous blood clots, but in high doses, it can cause uncontrolled internal bleeding. It's also the active ingredient in many forms of rat poison. There was one major problem. Daniel Nolan had never been prescribed warfarin. Not once. The medical examiner immediately flagged the case. Police were notified. Investigators began asking questions. The first question was simple. How did warfarin get into Daniel Nolan's system? The answer began to appear in the most unexpected place. A small pharmacy 20 minutes away. Inside that pharmacy worked a technician named Luis Herrera. Luis had noticed something strange weeks earlier. 2 men had been coming in regularly to fill prescriptions for warfarin. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Warfarin is a common medication. But Luis noticed something odd. Each time the prescription was filled, the name on the prescription was different. 3 different patient names, 3 different aliases, but the same 2 men picked up the medication every time. Luis had reported it to the supervising pharmacist, but without proof of fraud, nothing had been done. Then Luis saw Daniel Nolan's photograph on the evening news. The story mentioned suspicious levels of warfarin found during autopsy. Luis immediately called the police. When investigators reviewed pharmacy surveillance footage, they saw them clearly. Mark Nolan, Jason Nolan. Over 2 months, they had purchased large quantities of warfarin under fake names. Investigators began piecing the timeline together. Daniel had started taking the new blood pressure medicine about 6 weeks before his death. The pills looked similar. Easy to disguise, easy to explain. Each week the dose increased, just enough to slowly thin his blood, not enough to cause immediate suspicion, until eventually, his body could no longer stop internal bleeding. The hemorrhagic stroke had not been natural.
It had been engineered. Police obtained search warrants. Financial records revealed another disturbing discovery. Daniel Nolan had a life insurance policy worth $850,000, and his will named both sons as equal beneficiaries. When confronted with the evidence, Jason broke first. During interrogation, he admitted the truth. The plan had started as a conversation. Mark had financial problems, business debts, credit card balances, loans he couldn't repay. Jason had his own troubles, failed investments, a lifestyle he couldn't maintain. They believed the insurance money would solve everything. They convinced themselves their father was already old, already sick. They told themselves it wouldn't matter. So they slowly poisoned him with medicine he trusted, given by the sons he loved. The arrests shocked the entire community. Neighbors couldn't believe it. Friends were speechless. But the person most devastated was Patricia. For months after the trial, she replayed memories in her mind. Family dinners, holiday celebrations, birthdays. She searched those memories for warning signs, clues she might have missed. Eventually, both sons were convicted of murder and fraud. Mark received a life sentence. Jason received 40 years. The courtroom was silent when Patricia stood to give her victim impact statement. Her voice was steady, but the pain behind it was unmistakable. "You didn't just kill your father," she said. "You destroyed a family." Then she added something that surprised everyone. "I forgive you." But forgiveness didn't mean forgetting. In the years that followed, Patricia chose to turn her grief into something meaningful. She founded a nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting seniors. The program teaches elderly people how to recognize medication tampering, how to identify financial coercion, how to safely manage prescriptions without outside interference. The organization now helps thousands of seniors each year. And in every presentation Patricia gives, she shares the same message. Trust is precious, but awareness saves lives. Because sometimes the most dangerous poison isn't the medicine, it's betrayal.